Welcome back. In today's video, I'm going to talk about rebalancing strategies and when to consider rebalancing. I have a few videos on asset allocation. I'm going to talk about what to do when your asset allocation is a little off of where you want it to be. When you're starting off and your portfolio is smaller and you put money into your investments throughout the year, rebalancing is actually pretty straightforward if you have the right tools. For example, as a teacher, I get paid at the end of every month. So at the end of the month, basically on my payday, I just put X amount of dollars into my portfolio. How I distribute my money depends on how each of the indices did over that time frame. So I use a spreadsheet exactly like this. I don't remember where I got this spreadsheet, but I customized it to suit my needs. And if you are interested in something like this, I'm happy to share it with you. It's just a Google sheet. And this spreadsheet basically tells me how I need to allocate my funds for the month. So for example, let's say I have a $10,000 portfolio here, and again, if you've watched my videos, you know that I'm an all equity 100-0 investor, so I don't have any bonds. And I do like to put 25%-ish in my Canadian equity, 50% in my US equity, and 25% into my international equity. So let's say my portfolio has $2,500 into my Canadian equity, $5,000 into my US, and $2,500 in my international equity. And so you can see my current allocation is exactly where I want it to be, 25, 50, 25. But let's say I have $2,000 to invest. I enter that number into that green box, and my spreadsheet tells me basically I need to put $500 into my Canadian equity, $1,000 into my US equity, and $500 into my international equity. But let's say over the month, the US equities have done really well. They've outperformed everything, and the Canadians have lagged a little bit, and the international is sort of lagged behind the US as well. And you can see my current allocation is 55 in the US, 22% in Canada, and 23 in international, which is a little off of what my desired allocation is. So my spreadsheet tells me that with that $2,000, I should put $800 into my Canadian equity, $500 into US, and $700 into my international equities. And that will allow me to go back to my desired allocation of 25, 50, 25. Again, with smaller portfolios, this is quite easy. But when your portfolio grows, let's say you have $100,000 now, and the current allocation continues to be that 22, 55, 23, and I only have $2,000 to try and rebalance that. Now my spreadsheet's telling me that I need to sell off $4,000 worth of my equity in the US, and then put $3,500 into my Canadian and $2,500 into my international. I don't want to sell any of my equity, and I didn't. So I would find ways to distribute that $2,000 in the best way. So I would put that into Canadian and international equities and leave my US equity. It wouldn't get me to my desired allocation, but it would get me closer to it. And then maybe the next month, if I did that another time, maybe the US portion slows down and then the others start catching up. Maybe that's a strategy that you could use. But this becomes even harder if you had maybe like $1 million portfolio, right? Then that catch-up time is virtually impossible with numbers like $2,000 every month and stuff like that. So what do you do then? There are a few different strategies that you could use to get back to your asset allocation. I'm going to talk about two of them in this video. One is called calendar rebalancing. This basically just means that you pick a time frame, let's say monthly or semi-annually or annually or every 2 years or every 5 years, whatever it is, you pick a time frame and you just rebalance then. So I did a bunch of research on the optimal time to do rebalancing, and the data suggested that annually is the optimal amount of rebalancing for a portfolio. Anything less than that, you're buying and selling too frequently, and anything longer than that, really your portfolio becomes further and further out of balance. So for example, let's just say you chose January 1st of every calendar year to rebalance your portfolio. So let's say on January 1st, you went to your portfolio, you entered the data into the green there, and you found that your allocation was like this. Basically, you just do exactly what the spreadsheet tells you now. So you sell $5,000 worth of your US equity, and then you purchase $3,000 of Canadian equity and $2,000 of the international equity, and then that will allow you to get back to your desired allocation. And then January 1st of the next year, you do the exact same thing. Another strategy is called the percentage of portfolio rebalancing strategy. This just means rather than picking a particular day of the year to do it. Once one of your pieces of your portfolio becomes too far off of the desired allocation, so you could pick plus or minus. In this spreadsheet I used 5%. So once one of my allocations goes off by plus or minus 5%, I have my spreadsheet turn red here. So you can see that my US portion turned red here. It's above 5% of my desired allocation. So that's when you rebalance. Now I would sell $5,000 worth of my US equity and purchase some Canadian and international equity to get back to the desired allocation. So rather than picking a date, it's a percentage of your portfolio. So why is it so important to rebalance? You have no idea what countries, what sectors, anything, which ones are going to outperform in a given year or a given time frame. So you can see here, this is an asset allocation quilt that I got from RBC Wealth Management's website. They took all the data from 2009 to 2023. So they just took the top 10 performing countries over a given year. And you can see US has had their day. It's been a good run for the US. That's why I tend to put more of my portfolio into the US equity. But other than that, it's fairly random. You can see where Canada is in all of these, and it's all over this quilt here. And if you look at US sectors, it's the same story. It's usually a different sector that's outperforming the other sectors in a given year. So it's virtually impossible to determine which country or sector is going to outperform. So it's really important to stick with your original asset allocation and then rebalance with the strategy that you've chosen to employ for yourself. I hope this video has given you some ideas into how to rebalance your portfolio and some of the different strategies you can use. And if you've enjoyed this video and would like to stay informed of some of my others, please subscribe below, and always have a wonderful day.